Welcome to the Small Actions, Big Ripples podcast, where we shine a spotlight on individuals whose small, intentional actions create waves of positive change. In this special episode recorded in Manchester at a Forsyths music store, I'm thrilled to welcome Emma Loat, fifth generation owner of this remarkable family-run business stretching back to 1857. Let's get started. Emma, welcome to the Small Actions, Big Ripples podcast.
Thank you, and welcome to Forsyths.
It's a pleasure being here. You know very well that I was a student at the RNCM back in the day, and I used to spend countless hours, here browsing music scores and playing on your lovely pianos and chatting to your very knowledgeable and kind staff here. So, and some of which are still working here after all those years. Yeah. So that is incredible. So for me, as for many others, many music lovers, Forsyths is a bit of a cultural institution, really, for Manchester. And it's a big part of Manchester's musical heritage. I mean, we're stretching back to 1857 here. Can you tell us a bit about your own journey into the family business? And did you know that you're going to pick up the baton, so to speak, and you're going to become the fifth generation custodian of this incredibly family-run business?
Yeah, it's a hard one because obviously I grew up with Forsyths. It's always been here. It's always been part of my life. No, definitely. My parents were never, this is what you have to do with your life. It was always an option, but they never said, do this, Emma. So I went and did a geography degree down in London at UCL, then a master's in environmental science. And then I worked, I was very lucky. I got a job straight out of university for an environmental charity called the Council for National Parks. So I worked there as a policy officer for 5 years, campaigning, lobbying. And then it was 2002 when my parents were saying, have you thought about potentially joining the business? So my brother had started working here several years before that. He's my big brother, Simon. And I'd been 5 years into a career in the, it was amazing working in the environmental sector and actually getting paid for it. But there's a limit to how much you can do in a small charity without moving on somewhere else. And it seemed the right time to just try out the family business. So here I am, 23 years later, still trying it out, but it's okay. Yeah, I love it, actually. It's in a weird way, there's many parallels between campaigning and lobbying and doing something that you truly believe in and selling things, because this isn't just selling things, this is selling things that people are passionate about and have a joy from. So there are many parallels between the two worlds.
And there's a personal connection when you come here. I mean, I've witnessed it today when people come here and just take a seat in front of one of those lovely pianos. You can just see that just like there's nothing else in the world, and they form a personal connection. So what are your earliest memories then of the shop here? Perhaps when your dad used to bring you here. How does those early memories shape your connection with the shop?
Both my parents have worked here all their working life. Well, not quite all their working life. Since my father joined the business in 1971, which is the year my brother was born, letting on how old he is. So my earliest memories are from the late 1970s. And I do remember running around the showrooms, being scared by Mr. Lewis in the piano showroom here. I remember the amazing, it looked like a knitting machine to me, but it was a very early computer. So we've always been very traditional. It feels like we've always been here, but we've always evolved. So we were early adopters of computers back in the 70s, and we had a Burroughs machine, which is actually now in the Science and Industry Museum down the road, which was a computer, but it had lots of cards for the accounts and account customers and things. I just remember that big machine making funny noises in the office at the back. And then my earliest memories of actually working, well, I wasn't really working. I was asked to put miniature manuscripts into alphabetical order That was kind of thing in the sheet music department. Not really work. How to keep a small child out of the way.
Happy memories.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Well, this brings me to my next question, because I know you mentioned you were early adopters of technology.
Yeah.
What is it that you do on the day-to-day business and year in, year out to try to stay ahead of the game and compete with a very fierce online market out there?
We are of a certain scale, so we do many things to a big depth. So we're very well known for our pianos. We sell a lot of good quality acoustic pianos in every price bracket. But nowadays, we are one of the largest sheet music stockists in the country. And whilst, yes, you can buy things online, get it from Amazon, you cannot browse music in the same way. You cannot feel the thickness of the paper, look at the way the music's laid out, whether the binding is correct for you, or indeed find serendipity, something on the shelf you'd never thought of. It's that kind of interaction with the sheet music which many customers tell us time and time again, please don't stop selling music. This is what we really value. And as lots of places have shut down over the years, it's really sad. Our scope of customers who will travel and do travel to just spend the day in our sheet music department gets bigger and bigger. So when banks in York shut down a couple of years ago, many teachers were just lamenting and, now make a pilgrimage over here to just find music. So people do value what we have. Yes, we have many customers have been eroded away because of the internet, but we sell online as well. People do buy from us too. So you have to look in all directions, but there's a real value to coming in person and experiencing the sheet music, never mind the instruments, which is a whole other dimension.
I was wondering, as you were talking about this personal memories of yours, so many people come in here and it's almost like a pilgrimage. I do that at least a couple, even though I now live several miles away from Manchester. But when I come and visit family, I always try and make into the shop. Might you be able to share a story or a memory where Forsyths has supported a local musician or really changed their lives for the better?
I mean, there's lots of examples, and it is really lovely how many customers come and have a wonderful experience buying something, but then keep coming back. It's like you, they like to come and talk to us about their piano, their trumpet, whatever it is they bought, and we're part of, when they come to Manchester, they have to come into Forsyths. So a couple of examples for you. Probably the most famous is, it's actually the 30th anniversary of when he came in and bought a trumpet from us. So there's a certain famous Manchester United footballer who got into a bit of trouble for doing a kung fu kick. Someone in the audience, in the crowd. So that was 1995.
I think I know who you mean.
Yeah, so good old Eric Cantona, should have been in court, but he didn't turn up. He was actually here looking at trumpets. And it was actually my father who used to play trumpet. He's a trumpeter, it's his main instrument, who gave Eric his first lesson on trumpet in the shop here when he should have been in court around the corner. And he bought the trumpet, carried on playing, and then you may know the Ken Loach film that Looking for Eric. That was 10 years later or something. He actually played the trumpet in that film as well. He didn't have his trumpet with him, so the production company, they came and bought another trumpet from here for him to play. So we've actually sold 2 trumpets for Eric Cantona. But
Amazing.
that's one. And then a more kind of recent example, slightly less famous, is a lot of kids, when you walk up into this piano showroom, there's 50, 60 more pianos on display here. It's quite a jaw-dropping experience, but it's inspiring. And so many people just want to come and try the pianos. And a lot of kids at weekends will come in and show off to their friends and things. But lots of those kids grow up to be adults who then come back and buy pianos. So there's an amazing jazz pianist, so Andrzej Baranek, who's from kind of the Bolton direction. He was one of those kids who'd come and show off on the pianos to his mates. But he did. He came back and bought his little grand piano from us last year. And he's actually done a recital for us, jazz gig, if you want to call it, as well. And just hearing his heartfelt stories of how coming to Forsyth and being inspired by the pianos here is such a major influence on his life and why he ended up being who he is, a professional jazz pianist.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing that story. Powerful reminders of how powerful, music can be, and, what you guys do here. And this follows on nicely to my next question. It is clear that Forsyth is more than just a music store. It is part of the musical heritage of Manchester, and it's a cultural institution. So what kind of keeps you motivated? What is that kind of moment that kind of you feel that I'm doing something here very special?
I feel so privileged to be part of this institution. So part of it is that wanting to keep Forsyth viable. And it's not just a thing, it's because of what it does. And you're right, it has that influence on so many different things and gives so many people opportunities, which if we disappeared, there'd be a big hole, because there's not, well, in the UK, there's not really anywhere like us anymore. So it's partly that, but the joy that music brings to people, whether they're starting out on a journey or they're a very proficient player, helping people on that journey, it's just an absolute pleasure. So that's my personal motivation. I love interacting with customers and helping people on a journey. Yeah.
And I've seen you at work and your lovely colleagues here. It is just, you connect with your customers on a personal level. You're helping them to find joy in life through music. Look into the future. Are there any other plans? Could you perhaps talk to us about that?
Yeah. So you could say, it's a music shop. What do you need to change? So a lot of what we do has been the same for a long time. Since 1857, we've been selling acoustic pianos. That is the core of our business. But we have always been a hub for musical things. And so up until the 1980s, we used to have an even bigger premises. So the back of the premises next door used to be lots of teaching rooms. So we had teaching rooms. We also had big rehearsal rooms where opera companies used to come rehearse and things too. And then early 1980s, the building next door, which we were renting on a peppercorn rent, decided they wanted to take it back, knock it down and rebuild. So we lost our spaces then. So one thing we want to reintroduce, which we have been doing in a piecemeal way, is more teaching and rehearsal spaces. So we've been using 2 rooms for quite a few years now, which people regularly come in and rent by the hour or have a lesson in. But we're going to increase that side again because there's increasing demand as more and more city centre living. So that's one thing we're going to do. But the concerts, again, we've always had live things happening here, whether it's promotions for particular instruments or helping launch some music or whatever. But we've also done concerts, whether it's lunchtime recitals. I remember when I was little, we used to do lots of lunchtime recitals down the other end of the piano floor. But it's quite a major hassle moving pianos out of the way and having a concert whilst you're open. So after reopening after lockdown, we reintroduced concerts, but in the evenings. And it kind of keeps growing. So we do 2-3 a month on a Thursday or Friday or Saturday evening. And people keep wanting to perform. Really in the wonderful position of not really having to approach people, high quality artists, both professional and gifted students from the Royal Northern and Chet want to come and perform here. So.
And they're free to attend? Is that right?
They are free to attend, mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the majority are free to attend, and we're really lucky that we get charitable trust funding from the Ida Carroll Trust, so we can pay all the artists. And it's good promotion for us, we hope. So that's why we do it. And we do obviously spend quite a lot of money staffing it and running it. And it's quite a hassle moving the pianos out of the way, but it's a wonderful thing to do. And I enjoy it. So as long as I keep enjoying it, we'll keep doing it. But it's giving something back to all these wonderful musicians as well as to our customers, and hopefully inspire. And it does, it inspires people. And on the back of it, people have come back and bought pianos and things. So we're in the long-term game here. It's not just about instant returns. We have to always think long-term. But we evolve. We intend to be here for the long term, and we're very secure. We own our own building. That does help.
It's incredible to own your own building. What a building it is in the city centre of Manchester. Yeah. But it's full of memories, this place. And actually, I didn't know that you owned more buildings, next door. So go on, dating back. do a bit of name dropping, some famous musicians that have come through Forsyth's doors?
Oh, I mean, there's loads, and I have a terrible memory. But in more recent times, people like James Dean Bradfield from Manic Street Preachers, got Billy Connolly regularly whenever he was on tour, always popping in.
Going back in the day,
people.
I remember when you did the interview, you talked about Sir Charles Halley and Barbie Rowley used to hang out here. We're going back now.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole reason Forsyth is here is all because of Charles Halley. So Charles Halley was a concert pianist before he was a conductor, really. Should I do a quick, brief potted history of Forsyth?
You do that. Why don't you do that?
So we started in 1857, which happens to be the year before the Halley Orchestra started, and that's not a coincidence. So Charles Halley, as I say, was a German pianist who liked Broadwood pianos. And the Forsyth Brothers, they both worked at the Broadwood Piano Factory down in London, and their father was the factory manager, so they were very much part of Broadwood's. The Forsyth Brothers, they worked like in the research and development side, so they were developing new pianos, and they'd get people like Charles Halley to come and test them out and see what they thought. So that's how they got to know each other. So when Charles Halley got asked to establish a long-term gentleman's orchestra up in Manchester, he didn't know that many people in England, but he had befriended the Forsyths and asked them, why don't you come to Manchester, start a piano shop and do the business side for me of running an orchestra? And that's literally how it started. So they came up in 1857 and the orchestra was established a year later, and we managed it from our premises for like the first 100 years of its life. And we obviously have very strong connections now. We don't do any of that side, but we still provide all the music and pianos and all sorts for them. So yes.
And you publish music as well.
Yes.
Some people don't necessarily know that, but you're very successful publishers as well.
Yes, yeah. And again, that's all down to Charles Halley, because he wrote music as well. And so initially we started off publishing his teaching methods, but it soon grew into lots of other things too. So yeah. And we still bring out new publications of things, specialise in piano teaching music. Walter Carroll, one of our more well-known composers, and contemporary recording music is our other forte.
Incredible. Is there so much that you do other than just selling pianos and sheet music? Obviously, that is the core of your business, but there's so much else. And I love the fact that you are always trying to combine that tradition with innovation. So if you were to give a piece of advice to somebody out there that perhaps is inspired by what you do and they want to do something similar, what is the best way forward?
Be authentic. You have to not lose sight of the core of the reason we're here, and that is to give good advice and make sure we sell the right thing to each person. There's no one answer which fits all. That's why we have so many different types of pianos, so many different types of guitar. The strength of what we do is our scale, but our expertise, and marrying those two things together, that's our unique selling point. So for anyone starting out, it's a bit hard thing to replicate because, my goodness, the investment it's a bit scary thinking the size of our stock and how much money is invested here. But yeah, you've got to do it to a certain depth and with authenticity.
But personally, what I love also that you always have very knowledgeable staff working behind the counters or selling musical instruments. Very often they're musicians, very accomplished musicians themselves.
Everybody who works here is a musician, even our accounts staff.
So we've talked about Forsyth's history, we talked a little about what lies ahead. On a more light-hearted note, if Forsyths wear a musical instrument, what musical instrument would they be and why?
That's a difficult one. It's a bit of an obvious answer. I think we're a piano, really.
I feared you might say that.
I know. It's the easy answer because pianos are built to last. A good quality instrument looked after well is going to last at least 100 years.
Forever.
And then you can keep rebuilding it. You can maintain it, and it will last another 100 years before needing rebuilding again. So, not saying we're everlasting like pianos, but that's kind of part of it. But the complexity, the pianos are good at working in an ensemble. There's lots of things that we try to do which keep us relevant, whether it's working with other retailers, other shops, whether it's working with Manchester Jazz Festival, with lots of other Manchester institutions. It's, a bit like a piano. You can work on in an ensemble.
Brilliant. No surprises there then. If you could host a famous musician in the store for a concert or a chat, past or present, who would that be?
That's a really difficult, and I've agonised over this one because he did give me a heads up. However, I'm going to say Charles Halley because I'm intrigued to know what he would think of this institution, that basically it's because of him that we exist. I'd love to know what he thinks of Forsyths, but also of modern day pianos, because whilst they have appeared to be the same from back in the 1850s, they have evolved. It'd be lovely to hear him play and see what he thinks of the current day Forsyths.
Thank you, Emma. Well, that's a wrap for another episode of Small Actions, Big Ripples podcast. Thank you to Emma Loat for sharing some incredible memories and stories there of her family-run business that continues to nurture generations of musicians, including myself, besides enriching the cultural scene of the city of Manchester. If you enjoyed this conversation, look out for future episodes and more inspiring stories of people like Emma, who are driven by their passion for the arts and commitment to creating social impact by providing inclusive and accessible cultural experiences that are enjoyable. Until next time, keep taking those small actions. You just never know how far your ripples are going to reach. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.